Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Unreserved. I'm Kiana, I'm a producer here. I scripted this video on racism in support of Black History Month, in honor of Black History Month, and yeah, I'm excited to see how it goes.
Hi, my name is Shalini. I am a student at McMaster. My background is Haitian.
Hi, my name's Tamia. I'm also a student at McMaster. I'm Gen Z and my background is Bayesian.
Hi, I'm Elaine. I'm not a student. I'm Generation X and mother to everybody here.
Okay, so to start the video off, I'm just going to provide a brief explanation as to where my first question came from. So as a society, there are obviously a lot of breakdowns based on oppression and marginalization, and obviously race is a big aspect of a big example of one of those things. So the question is going to relate to segregation and integration, and specifically, as it is Black History Month, I'm going to be talking about how segregation is impacting integration. So in one line, my question is, can we achieve unity and integration amidst segregation? Does segregation undermine integration?
I think that in terms of specifically things like HBCU and BET, I think it's important to have spaces that Black people can go to congregate and to be with each other due to the fact that obviously we were and are still oppressed. So there are things that we want to share with each other. And I think there's two sides to that coin. I think it could be positive, but also it could be negative when it starts to when we start to project how we feel about other races upon them because they're not in that space.
And these spaces were created because people who look like us, we needed to create that space where we were represented. I think segregation came as a result of the oppression and the marginalization and really lack of economics given to our communities, to people of color and people who look like us.
So a phrase commonly used in our community, it's this, it's because I'm Black. Some people also believe that they can't achieve certain things because of their race. And I'm not saying that's entirely just what do we need to do as a people to achieve this, but what does society need to do to break this mindset?
I have a lot of trouble with that question. I think the number of people who use, I guess, race, as you're saying, as an excuse, it's minimal compared to the people who are actually experiencing this. It starts in the fight for education, where it's common knowledge in our public schools that streaming happens, and that is where children in our community are directed to the less valuable classes. My parents had to fight for me to go into the advanced classes. This is a broad question, and I don't know. I feel like we're, when we're saying, oh, it's happening to me because we're Black and people are using it as an excuse, it's almost making it trivial because in our societies, like, these are very real things. Things are happening because of race. There isn't any doubt about it. Opportunities to education is so important. And you think about economic background and decisions being made on, where people live. That's real. That's real. I walk into a store and they don't know if I can afford it or not, but they make decisions about that based on how I look. That's real.
I'm going to very strongly agree with that. I think that the phrase, because I'm Black, it stems from truth and it stems from experience. So I think that when it's said, obviously sometimes you'll hear it in a joke amongst friends, but you understand that it's just a joke. But at the heart of it, I think it's a very real thing. I won't go into the topic extensively, but in the States and police and Black people alone, because I'm Black, and that's a real thing. exceptionally what you said about walking into a store and being treated like you cannot afford something simply because of how you look. And there will be somebody who's also a minority, but they're not Black, and they'll be treated like, if a Caucasian person walked into the store and it's a Caucasian owner and everyone can afford everything, but once you get to the Black person, it's a different type of handling technique. So I think that the phrase "because I'm Black," it's truthful and it holds weight. And I don't think it's to be taken lightly. And in terms of what society needs to do, I'm going to tie it back to what I said previously about we can't change people's minds. But if we can create our own opportunities to create those space to do what we know we can do, regardless.
Yeah, and like what you said about the education factor of it, and like being within classes, and then me being here, I came to Canada in like 2007. I was the only Black girl in all of my classes. And then my teachers going to me being like, oh, like, do you understand this? But like not really asking anyone else that same question. And me like, what about her? Like, she doesn't understand it, but you're coming to me first. Like, I'm raising my hand, you're not picking me. It was so very hard for me telling my parents, and then them doing exactly the same thing that you did for your kids, coming to the school and like talking to my teachers like, why are you doing this to her? Like, she feels different. And obviously a parent's worst nightmare is their children feeling different within that setting, right?
What were like some of the responses they would get when like your parents go and ask?
There was two that my parents always referred back to me growing up. Oh, she just looked like it. And then the second one was, oh, she just never raised her hand. I like to talk. So no matter what, even if I had a question, something, I always raised my hand. I was always there helping other people. So I just didn't understand how they would go and say that to my parents.
Mm-hmm.
I guess those are the walls that we're continually faced with breaking down. You know, that's why it's hard to not say, you know, it's because I'm Black. And it's harder still to not want to create those spaces, you know, where you're talking about segregation, but create those spaces where you are accepted for the full you, not simply seen because of the color of your skin.
I was looking very deep in it as always, and I was wondering, do humans have this natural tendency to categorize things? And with that said, do you think racism is natural? Because a child can see the difference in skin tones, the difference in accents, the different ways we behave because of our culture. So I want to bring that into how is really racism, and I guess I'll start with you, but how is it that we tell our children to treat people?
It's all right to recognize that a person is different from me. There's nothing wrong with that. And teaching our children that, yes, that person is different or that person looks different. But obviously it's what comes after. Children aren't necessarily afraid of different. They're taught to be afraid when they see what the adult reactions are around them.
I agree with what you said, absolutely. I think I'm being a little naive when I say I personally think the answer is simple. The onus falls on the parent to make sure that you're setting the action example rather than the verbal example for your kid to follow. And I think that if it's ingrained enough and if it's honed in on and it's discussed within the household at a young age, then it makes it very difficult for the world to seep into that kid and tell them that they should discriminate because it's what they know now to be accepting.
In class, you're always learning how, like, oh yeah, race isn't real. Like, it's a social construct. Like, I don't know.
You taught that?
Oh yeah. In all my sociology classes, I'm a sociology major. Even in psychology, like Joe Kim's class, you hear like race is not real. Like, it's just based on how we categorize people. So what you're saying about how kids get socialized, I completely 100% believe that. That kids do not just come out of the room, oh, you're this, I'm better than you. That's not realistic at all.
I don't think it's absolute, but I definitely think that there are things that are ingrained at your core and it's hard to get rid of them. I also have a very low tolerance for racism, especially in this day and age, because social media is making it increasingly difficult to be ignorant. The other view is a click away now. The other view isn't a full trip around the world to understand. So there are things at our fingertips, and I think it's not even just on society. We should also take it upon ourselves to be like, okay, there are different views now. I have more access to these things, so let me go and find them because it's more accessible.
Going back to the whole idea of how do we break these stereotypes, I think one of the influential aspects in our life right now is the media, not just social media, but like movies and things that you're watching and things that are casually just in your face. So I wanted to talk about the impact of having Black female, and I'm specifically going on Black female representations in the media, because I feel like they're very narrow depictions of roles given to Black women. And I'm not saying all, but many roles that are given to Black women, when they are the lead, the whole movie ends up being about race, or the whole celebration around the movie is led back to race. Whereas with like a Caucasian woman, they're not looking on, oh, this Caucasian woman did well in this movie. They're just looking at, oh, she did well in a movie. So I wanted to just kind of talk about the importance of media in breaking these stereotypes.
I think that the way Black women are portrayed already, just like when you think of a Black woman, at least being in high school, and I would ask people, okay, like, how do you view like a Black girl? Like, how do you view me? And the answers were always so negative. Like, oh, well, I'm gonna be so candid right now. It was always physical features. It was always about the way I looked. Oh, like, you have big lips. Oh, you have a big butt. Oh, yeah, your nose is bigger than usual. Your hair is always different. I don't know why your hair is always different. It was always about that. It was never like, oh, well, you're really smart, or I like the way you talk about this. It was never like that. It was always based on the physical. So seeing women in the media, they portray that too. So like, you always see them wearing less clothing. In music videos, you always see them like shaking what they got in front of the camera, instead of being like, oh, well, what can you do besides that? Like, why is it always about your body? Why is it always about what you look like and having the perfect shape? This is what I see growing up. Like, Beyonce, Rihanna, like, all these women, you're looking at them and you're just like, oh, that's what it is like, okay.
Black women in the media. I think that there are obviously times where you'll watch something and it won't. Well, what I'm trying to say is sometimes you'll be watching a movie and the main character will be a Black female, and you'll already know before she speaks how she's going to sound. And there are cases to contradict that where that's the opposite. Like, for example, if you watch Scandal, Kerry Washington doesn't sound the same way that Tiffany Haddish would sound in Girls Trip. And there's just things that are different about I guess who the producers are, and it goes to the behind the scenes. It's not even just about what you're actually seeing on the camera, because who's on the camera are the people that are getting paid. They're not, paying for it to happen. So like, who has the say? And I think that when it comes to Black women in the media, you were saying about Rihanna and Beyonce and their videos, and yes, while it was very bodily focused, no one can dispute what those women have done outside of it, like what their body represents. I think that it's definitely seeps into society and how society views Black women. There are obviously countless times that I think everyone on this couch can talk about how people view us or what they've said. Something I always get is, before I met you, I just thought you were intimidating, and I'm like, well, why did you think that? What did I do that made you think I was intimidating? I don't know. You just seemed like you were gonna be like a little mean or a little loud or something. I was like, am I mean? Am I loud? And they're like, no. And I'm like, okay, what have we established here? Like, you know what I mean? So I think it's important to just keep trying to break through that wall of I'm more than just speaking loudly, or I'm more than being or overreacting. But it's not really overreacting, because the way the situation is handled is exactly how any other woman would handle the situation, but you just amplified it in your head because she's Black. So I think it's just trying to hone in and try to break down that barrier. And it's difficult because a lot of the production and a lot of who creates the things that we see on the screen, the behind the scenes, is a lot of Caucasian males, Caucasian females. And I think it's just trying to work our way up. Maybe it's not even on the screens, but it's in the back. So we can be the voice to say, no, don't put that on the screen.
I agree with you. Just to cut in before you go to, it's because, and she's not Black. I'm talking about Mindy Kaling. Mm-hmm. She was an actress. And because of the discrimination she's faced and like the roles she was always given, that's why one of the reasons I read that she stepped back from being mainly an actress and producing, because now she takes the time to give other people that place to show their talent and not be portrayed in this narrow mindset.
I think that the media has a long way to go to fight what they have long ago established as the norm. Mm-hmm. I think you're right in saying that, yeah, we have to start telling our own stories, creating these images and pushing to the forefront these positive images, because they're so few and far between. Mm-hmm. But it goes back to your question originally, like, is it possible to have integration
just thought about that too,
without segregation?
Because that is essentially how they get recognized too, right?
Yes.
So, and that is what then now and obviously, like, I feel like things have changed, like whether it's fake or not, people are trying to be more inclusive. Like even to the thing with the Disney, when it came out initially, I was like, oh, is this like a marketing strategy? Whether or not it is giving recognition to that little girl that's sitting on the couch and being like, there was never anyone looking like me, right? And then I think it helps to normalize these things that are now issues and deep-rooted in the segregation anyways, and just create a more inclusive space overall. So.
Can I touch on that Disney thing? I'm not trying to tie it to a bigger picture, but like you said, Ariel's a mermaid. They don't exist. So, anyone could play a mermaid. But on the same token, I saw I don't know if it's real, but someone was trying to say they were going to cast a Caucasian female actor to play Harriet Tubman. And I was like, that's a real person who like changed the trajectory of Black history. So, a mermaid or like historical figure.
And let us not forget, though, that Hollywood has done this for
decades.
Yeah, there are many, many, many characters of color, Asian women that have been played by for a long time, by Caucasian women. So yeah, this is a real thing. This does exist,
and it's definitely not just Black people.
No, not
like
at
all races, like all minority races. Like there just needs to be better representation.
I think it just goes back to people being more open-minded about it, because that uproar happened because people don't want things to change. They want things to stay the same way.
The people that benefit from it, and there's a video that we recently led out to, it's that it was about toxic masculinity, and a good point made in that video is that when the people that are on the more favored end of that spectrum, when there starts to be a balance, they feel attacked. Like they get upset because they're gonna lose that privilege that they once had, and now it's gonna balance out. So I think it also boils down to that. But yeah, society needs some work.
Everybody needs some work.
Yeah,
we all need some
work.
We
can all be better.
Yeah.